Hello and welcome to Maths 002. Today we're going to be talking about converting pence into pounds and the other way around as well, from pounds into pence. The first thing we need to consider is how many pence are in £1. And here I've laid out 100 pennies so that you can see how many pennies are in a pound. So there's 100 pence in £1. We could check that. This is an array. You might remember arrays from multiplication. There are 10 running across and 10 running down, and 10 times 10 is 100. So that's one quick way of checking I've got 100 pennies here. Now, hopefully you can appreciate that that is a lot of coins that represent the same as this £1 here. If I actually put the equal symbol in there. So all of these coins are worth the same as just this one coin here. And that's because in £1 there is 100 pennies. There's a pattern here that we could see. There are 100 pennies in £1. There are 200 pennies in £2. There are 300 pennies in £3. There are 400 pennies in £4, and so on and so on. That's the first thing that we need to consider when approaching this lesson. The second thing we need to think about is, why do we use the decimal point? So the decimal point is that symbol that looks like a full stop that's in between some of the digits when we're talking about money. So we use this decimal point to show the difference between pounds and pence in a total. Let's take this number here, 305. Without a decimal point or a symbol here, it lacks clarity on what it represents. We don't know if that represents £3 and 5 pence. We don't know if it represents 305 pounds. We don't know if it represents 305 pence. And those three things are a different way of making up a total. Some of the totals are worth different. Some totals are worth the same but would be made up differently. Like the £3 and 5p would have £3 coins and then 5 pence coins. Whereas the 305 pence would take a very long time to count out 305 of the 1 penny coins. So we actually need a decimal point and a symbol here to clarify what exactly this number represents. So how do we write pence as pounds is our next topic that we need to consider. Here I've got 343 pence. Now, we might, when we go to shops and things, we don't ever see that as a total or as a price tag, do we? 343 pence. Mainly because it seems like a huge number. So the shopkeeper will want to put it into pounds, so it doesn't seem as expensive, so we're more likely to buy it. The other reason is because we've got those coins, those pound coins, to make it easier to pay for things and easier to understand and comprehend values in our mind. So how do we write 343 pence as a pound? Well, we're going to partition it here into pounds and pence. So I'm going to take the 300 pence, and 300 pennies are the same as £3. So I'm going to just partition the 300 here and just drag that down into here. Now I've got 43 pence left, which I'm going to keep as 43 pence. So I've split the 343 pence into pounds and pennies. So I've got £3 and 43 pence. Now I'm going to put them back together using that decimal point. So I've got a pound sign to show that I'm talking in pounds, and I've got £3, decimal point to show that I'm no longer talking about pounds and I'm going to be showing the pence, and I've got 43p. So here, just to recap, I've taken 343p, I've partitioned it into pounds and pence. I've then used the decimal point to put those two values back together to show £3 and 43 pence. Now, to go back to what I was talking about shopkeepers and to talk about why maybe they use pounds in their pricing instead of just pence, is because even though 343 pence and £3.43 are the same value, the £3.43 just always sounds less than 343 because of the word hundred. Even though we now understand they're worth the same, it makes it sound like it's a bit cheaper. And that's why shops will use this method of £2.99, and they'll price something with the 99 at the end, because £2.99 will always sound cheaper than £3, because our brain automatically tells us £3 is more than £2.99. It's a quite interesting reason why why everything is priced at something 99p. Right, so here I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to partition this number into pounds and pence, but I'm going to use a part and whole model here, or some of you might know it as the Cherry method. So I've got 531 pence here. I'm going to take the pounds out of it first. So I know there's 500p. So I know there's going to be 5 whole pounds that I can partition out. So 500 pence is the same as £5. So I can take that £5 out there, and without the 500p, there's 31p left. I don't need to partition that because I can't take any whole pounds out of it. So I've partitioned it into, for this one, just take away the equals there. So for this one, I've partitioned it into £5 and 31 pence. So I can say that the total is £5 and 31 pence. And that is how I would write it in its decimal notation there. So that's how you'd use a part and whole model to partition it into pounds and pence and using the decimal point. Right, so here I've got some other ones, examples, just to show you how I would work them out. So I would always recommend you using the part and whole model or the bar model method until you get really used to it. And even then, I would recommend doing it because it's a really good representation. Here, I'm just going to quickly talk through each of these. So, 216 pence. Well, I'm going to take the 200 pennies out and turn them to pounds. So, I'm going to say that would be £2 decimal point to show the difference between the pounds and the pence. And then how many was it? Was it 61p? Trying to remember. Oh no, not 61. That's different to 16. There. So I've taken the pounds out, I've shown the decimal point, and then I've got the 16p on the end. So now I've got 854 pence. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is partition it and take the hundreds out. And now I know 100 pennies is £1, so 800 pennies would give me £8. So I'll go with £8, and then there were 54 pennies left. So I've converted that into £8 and 54 pence. Now, to convert from pounds into pence is the opposite way around. So this time I need to turn the £7 into pennies. Now I know 700 pence is £7. So I know £7 is 700 pennies. So I'm just going to jot that down so I don't forget it again. So I'm going to convert the £7 into 100 pennies, so it'd be 700 pennies. And then I'm going to add the 63p on there. So £7.63 would be the same as 700 and 63 pence. Same with the last one here. At this time I've got £3 and 56 pence. So the first thing we're going to do is convert the £3 into pennies. So I know £3 is the same as 300 pennies. And I've got the 56p as well. So £3 and 56p is the same as 356 pennies. So there you are, that's your lesson for converting pennies into pounds. My top tip is to always remember that there's 100 pennies in £1, and remember that pattern I spoke about on the first slide, and to also use those part and whole models, because it will just help when you're doing the first ones to structure your partitioning and your splitting up of the pounds into pence.